As a mobile developer, one thing I'm often doing is building a backend for my mobile applications. If I'm doing everything in .NET, that means I'm building an ASP.NET Core Web API backend and then ingesting that in through my iOS, Android, Mac, or Windows applications. Now, if I'm on my local machine, it's no problem to debug that locally. But when I'm using a device or an Android emulator or iOS simulator, things get a little funky. But with dev tunnels, everything is changed. So I'm going to show you how to set up dev tunnels inside of Visual Studio 2022, and it's going to blow your mind how to debug things locally and expose localhost to the web. So tune in. Hey everyone, I'm James and I'm back today to talk about one of my new favorite features in Visual Studio 2022, which is dev tunnels. Dev tunnels are a game changer, especially if you're a mobile application developer like myself, or if you're even just a web developer. There's kind of two scenarios here. The one I just set up is something that happens to me all the time. I'm building my iOS or Android or my Windows or Mac application, and I am building a backend for it. Now, this all works great if I'm just debugging locally on localhost on my Windows device, but if I go to an Android emulator or I want to put it on my physical device, how do I expose localhost out to these devices? There are some wacky workarounds that kind of set up HTTP without HTTPS, but it's just a headache in general. What I want is a unique URL that is up on the internet that is sort of a loop back to my local machine, and that is where dev tunnels comes in. So let me head over to my Windows desktop and take a look. All right, the first thing here is I have my ASP.NET Core Web API backend. So here I'm just using groups, monkey APIs. This is all scaffolded out. I have a video on how I actually created this backend, which I'll put up over there. There we go, over there. Yeah, so we have our full backend here. This is calling into a SQL database and exposing that out with a bunch of data here that we can see. Now, if I run this locally, we can see that I have a Swagger right here that's showing me my gets, my posts, and my puts, and my deletes, and all that good stuff. And if I tap on this and I try it out, we can see that if I call this HTTP localhost 7164 API monkey, I get back my monkeys right here. So that's all being exposed right here. Now, I have a .NET MAUI application, but this could be any application that you're looking to run. And I'm just using HTTP client, right? I have a local host. I'm going to call that same API. I'm going to grab those monkeys and pull them down. Now, this is all going to work great if I specifically am calling this from my local host. So here, I'm just going to go ahead and boot up my Windows application. There we go. Now, when I hit get monkeys, it's going to call my backend. So let me go ahead and actually pull that up over here, and let me see where my get is. Here we go. So we'll just put a breakpoint there, just kind of prove it. I'm going to say get monkeys. Then I'm hitting that back end. I get my monkeys. I'm going to return that back. And sure enough, I get my monkeys in a list. Beautiful. The world is perfect. Localhost, everything is working fantastic. Now, however, let's say I go back to my monkey finder application and stop that. And I go over to an Android emulator. Now, the same would be true if I go to an Android device or an iOS device or a remoted iOS simulator. The problem here is that these devices, like an Android emulator is running on my machine, but it's an emulator with its own sort of network stack. If it's a device, well, that device is just kind of hanging out in my hand. How is it going to speak directly to my local machine? So what we'll see here is that while I try to get an HTTP request here, it's actually going to fail. So let's go ahead and give it a second to boot up here, because this Android emulator just can't break out into my local machine. And we're going to see it actually fail here in real time. All right, cool. Our application is running. I'm going to go ahead and hit get monkeys. And sure enough, would have failed to connect localhost. And we can see here, it's looking at 127.0.0.1. 51 or 7164. It is trying to go to localhost there, can't connect to it. Now, there are some workarounds. Basically here, the problem with localhost is HTTP certs and all this other stuff and SSL certs. And the problem is that we'd have to put this into HTTP mode to speak to my emulator. I have to go into my configuration. It'd be a whole mess. What we want to do is create a URL to expose this to the internet, and we can do that with dev tunnels. So I'm going to leave this running here, and we're going to go back over into our backend. Now I'm going to stop debugging here. And what I've done is gone into Tools Options, and inside of Previews, I've enabled this little feature here, Enable Dev Tunnels for Web Applications. Now, when you're watching this video, it might already be out, so check the documentation links below. So go ahead and make sure it might be on already for you. Now, dev tunnels are super cool because see, it can be used for webhooks, Power Platform development, and a lot more. And additionally, not only web APIs, but also just full web applications, so anything. And what this will do is it'll make a tunnel from your local machine and give you a URL out on the internet that you can use and share. So once you enable that, all you need to do is from the debug dropdown, you have all these other options here, but you want to go to dev tunnels. And now there's a show dev tunnels window. That's a really nice one in general. That will bring over this dev tunnel window. I'm just going to go ahead and pin it down here. There we go. And we have no dev tunnels. If I go back over into dev tunnels and say create tunnel, what we can see is it's like, what account do I want to have used? And I'm going to give this a name. I'm going to call it monkey tunnel. There we go. And there's a few options here. These are all brand new and I really, really like them. Here it says, what's the lifespan basically? Do you want it persistent? Do you want it temporary? This is going to be based on the project that you have. So, and Visual Studio will give you the same URL every single time. So I'm going to say persistent. And here you can decide, do you want it private? Do you want it organizational? Do you want it public? And this basically is going to enable if you need to log in or you want to share it with your coworkers, for example. I'm going to say public because I want my applications to have access to it. It's a public get backend and I have my own authentication. So as far as this tunnel is concerned, I want it to just be public so anyone on the internet could access it only while it's actually running, right? So as long as that tunnel is running. So I'm gonna hit go, and it says right here, it's been created. So there we go. Now this is nice. We can see the dev tunnel is something that's not started, it's persistent, it's stopped, things like that. And all I need to do is just run the application. That's it. I'm actually just running the application. That's it. But the difference here is this, is if we look at this URL, look at this. It says h59 blah, 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 devtunnel.ms. You're about to connect to this dev tunnel. Do you want to? I'm going to say absolutely. Let's do it. And we can see in the URL bar, we have that same URL. So let me go ahead and make this a little bit bigger here. And there's my API. So I have everything available. Now I can say try it out, hit get. And now this is what's really important is if I go back over here, look, it hit a breakpoint on my local machine, right? So it's all still on localhost, which is really neat, right? So it's running locally, but it's tunneled to localhost. Now, if I go back over to Visual Studio, I'm going to go view and then I'm going to other windows and it's off screen, but basically there's dev tunnels over there. So let's go ahead and pin this again down at the bottom. And we can see that there's two active URLs here. So I get an HTTPS for this. And basically what I'm getting is two different ports, 7164 and 5060, because those are the ones that ASP.NET Core launches automatically for me. So I can see those started right there. I'm just going to go ahead and copy this one. I like that little copy button there. Cool. So we have our dev tunnels. What can we do? Well, we have all of our monkeys coming in and we can now go back into our Android application. And all I need to do is put in that URL. There we go. I'm just going to give it one in there. So we now have still API, monkey, everything like that. I'm just going to hit hot reload. All right. So now if I open up the Android emulator again and hit get monkeys, look at this. It's hit that dev tunnel, talking to my local machine, talking to my SQL Server instance running on my local machine. And now it's going to return those monkeys back out to the mobile application, right? And I have this unique URL. I can give it to you. I can give it to the world. And as long as I'm debugging it here locally on my machine and it's active, that local host is going to be exposed out via these unique URLs thanks to dev tunnels, which is really mind-boggling, right? And I think as a mobile application developer, to be able to come in, get these unique URLs, I can easily spin them up, spin them down as I need, temporary while I'm using it, or persistent as I close and reopen solutions. It's just a thing that is absolutely delightful and it boggles my mind that it's just built into Visual Studio 2022. So what are some other use cases for dev tunnels? Well, one, you might be using and wanting to debug like Azure Functions, and you can use it directly with Azure Functions exactly the same way, which is really nice. Or One thing that my buddy John at work did with me is that he was working on the .NET website, and he's like, hey, I have this running locally. Let me just create a dev tunnel and show you what I'm working on. He doesn't need to share his screen. He can just share the URL with me, and I can start to make, in the DOM, take a look at it, play with his changes in real time. And as he makes changes, his hot reload will also kick in as well, because it's the real running local host instance of it. So there's tons of use cases for dev tunnels, and to me, it's just mind-boggling that it's in the box. Flip it on, give it a try. I will put links to all the documentation below, and I just love the seamless integration. If you found this tool or other tools when you're doing back-end and front-end development useful, drop them in the comments. I would love to give them a look and actually do a video on them. Besides this tool, I use a lot like Postman, for example, but I know there's other great tools out there. I'm not traditionally a web developer, but sometimes I need a back end for my front end. So tools like this that are built into the box just make it absolutely delightful. Well, if you like this video and you like this content, give it a thumbs up below. And if you're new to the channel, I'm James. I put out videos almost every single week. I've been a little sick and under the weather, so it's been a little bit of time, but I'm glad to be back creating videos. So hit that subscribe button so you stay up to date with all the latest videos here on the channel. Thank you so much. Let me know what you think of dev tunnels in the comments below, and have a good one.